For a week, there's a lot of response, then probably the price is a little bit too low.
Yes, correct.
If let's say for a week, there's no response,
Then
probably the
too
price
high.
is too high. Oftentimes, when I do sell the house, we see, and also from a lot of colleagues here say, valuation don't match. How?
Actually, the more important question to ask, right, is actually what is valuation?
Okay,
So for me, right, actually how I explain valuation to my buyers or my sellers is like this. HDB will actually do a valuation and you can only come from the HDB approved panel. You cannot get your friend who is in a bank, your friend who is a valuer. It doesn't matter. So a good guideline usually will be based on the transactions in the area. Of course, people like to quote websites and everything. For me, I feel that it's easier to see from the transactions. Websites are helpful. They are a very good guideline. But from there, right, end of the day, it still depends on the final transaction and what the HDB approved panel gives you for the value of your unit. Now, Casey, what do you think happens, right, when the valuation don't match, whether it's above or below? For example, the house is sold at 500K.
Yes.
The valuation today comes out at 450K. What happens?
Oftentimes, this is called a cash over valuation, right? COV. This 50,000, bank cannot lend you money.
Yes, correct.
HDB cannot lend you money. You cannot use the CPF grants. This 50,000 really is out of pocket expense.
Correct.
Other than the other money that they have to pay for the $450,000, right? That's why it's called cash over valuation. It does not mean that the buyer take out 50,000 from their bank and then pass it to the seller. It doesn't work like this.
Yes.
But this $50,000, buyers might want to reserve for their renovation. Valuation matching sometimes is a huge criteria for a lot of buyers. Of course, there are some threshold.
Yes.
Some buyers are out there and saying, yeah, I want to buy a new flat. Understand that there probably will have some COV. My threshold is maybe $25,000, $20,000, or even $10,000.
Correct.
Because I have some reserve
Some
of fund, and I would like to have this money for renovation.
So for the other way round, if you today sell at 500 but your valuation is 550, whether you're a buyer or seller, nothing happens. Of course, as a seller, then you will feel bad, but if you know,
they don't know, right?
If you know,
Nobody knows.
Because why you don't know is because the buyer is the one who pays for the valuation, and he or she reserves the right to share whether the valuation matches or not.
For HDB now, it have changed already because anti-speculative measures that even when the price is over, we never know. Even if we are serving buyer, because in the resale portal, it just state completed.
Yeah.
It does not state the actual price unless it is lower. It will state when it's lower. If it's over, nobody knows. They will just put completed.
In a sense, they'll just match the valuation. The more bigger concern when it doesn't match is below. When the valuation is below the asking price. Because that's where cash actually comes in, and that's where the market actually gets affected a little bit.
How do sellers know the valuation? Because first thing, when they want to price a house, they don't want to price it too low. If they can get a better price that they would like, then how do we know what's a reasonable price?
The easiest way to not do homework is to engage a professional who will give you the valuation based on his homework. But next way is to go to HDB website and check the transactions on your own. So this helps you have a better idea of roughly where you stand, because HDB actually gives you, which floor to which floor. So 1 to 3, 4 to 6, 7 to 9, and how much is transaction. Then from there you can gauge against your own unit. It will not be 100% match, but the idea is there. Usually it's there.
I think the difficulty comes whereby when there is not a lot of transaction, especially for HDB MOP houses.
Correct.
How do you combat that?
Without enough experience, the gauge might not be so good, but with enough experience, you see the surrounding transactions, you can roughly tell, adjusting for age, adjusting for facing, all that kind of stuff, right? It will actually be relatively accurate by looking at nearby transactions, especially for early MOP.
Another method that I do use myself, test it out.
Yes, you can always do that.
I put out a price, right, a little bit higher than what we would see in the market, and then we see the response coming in.
That's right.
If let's say for a week, right, there's a lot of response, then probably the price is a little bit too low.
Yes, correct.
If let's say for a week there's no response,
then
probably the price
high.
is too high. I mean, importantly, it's the offer. It's not
market
just people
demand,
coming.
right? Yeah, market. It's all about market demand. End of the day, whatever price you put, if there's nobody, then your house will never sell. If there's way too much response, there's also something.
I don't think you should hang that price, the test market price, for too long.
Yes, correct.
1 or 2 weeks, enough.
Because we can actually see, for those of you at home, right, whether you know this or not, we can actually see the number of days the unit has been listed.
Yeah.
So through our certain apps, right, we can actually tell if it's listed for 100 over days. Imagine for you, right, to see a listing that's been there. There are people, right, who are actual serious buyers and sellers, right, who look at the listing and hey, this listing been for a while already. And because when we show them, they were like, hey, this listing, I've seen this for a while. Is it some reason cannot sell or not? So if you hold your test price for too long, right, this is what will happen to you.
So I will always encourage, you can test it out 1 to 2 weeks at most.
Yes.
We're going to change it to a reasonable price and then let's get it out. Even importantly is to move to the next step.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Focus on the next plan.
So to summarize, I think valuation, yes, is important, right? How do we get it? There's a few ways, like Eugene mentioned.
Correct.
Go towards HDB website.
Yes.
If not, like I mentioned, you can test out the market. Maybe MOP, you probably can get away with a little bit of
Leeway,
COV,
a little bit more leeway.
or cash over valuation, because probably the buyer will think that I'll pay a little bit of cash over valuation, save me the hassle of I already like this place with the renovation. Maybe I buy it together with the furniture. It's okay. So that's my point of view of valuation. Yourself?
Yeah. So for me, I feel that valuation is important when you look at the price that you put up on the market, because if you don't have a clear idea of how much you're looking to sell and you sell your house for too long, right, you actually end up having a negative image cast on your house and it's not helpful for you.